after ending up in a coma, after eating a roast beef sandwich, believe it or not, for someone my age and size, 30-some pills a day.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, I would now take 3 milliliters of Ravicti 3 times a day. And she came back, and she was a retired nurse, and she checked on me, and I was comatose. But that makes it so I can't eat it. I can't eat something that has 24 grams of protein for lunch. That's more than half my protein goal for the day.
And then if you eat more than 40, then you start not feeling well?
My thing has been learning how to manage my disorder, not letting my disorder take over my life, but trying to manage my disorder so I can live my life. That's another thing, is you need to kind of figure out, I cannot fly by the seat of my pants usually as to what I'm going to eat. I kind of need to figure out, okay, what am I eating tomorrow? I'm sure you've heard this phrase, invisible illness.
Yeah.
I am the invisible illness person. I walk in, I'm not puking, I'm not bleeding, I'm not causing a ruckus in their waiting room. So I can sit over here and I can wait. Now, mind you, the longer I wait and go untreated, the higher my ammonia. I don't usually get too nauseous when my ammonia is going up. And this was like, it felt like it was coming from my toes. Let me put it that way. It was.
I have never felt that.
Because of the bad experiences I've had in the emergency room, I err on the side of not wanting to go to the emergency room because of the many bad experiences I've had. And then that's the wrong decision. I've made those not to have children because of my disorder, because it is genetic. And that was a combo of not only not wanting to pass it on, but a pregnancy also puts stress on your body. And I was also afraid of the older generation that are just kind of, to everybody, still unknown.
The information in the podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please talk to a medical professional before doing anything that may impact your health. Hello, welcome to my podcast, Mics One JoeySooch. I am Joey Sooch, and I'll be giving a mic to Amy Englert. She is a Urea Cycle Disorder patient with OTC variant. I have to attempt to name ornithine transcarbamylase deficiency.
Transcarbamylase.
Yes, OTC. OTC does not mean over the counter. OTC is an enzyme missing or nearly missing to break down and remove nitrogen from the body without any help. Symptoms include vomiting, refusal to eat, progressive lethargy, and coma. Amy is also a secretary for Remember the Girls charity. It provides awareness, advocacy, and support for X-linked genetic disorders. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on here.
Not a problem.
So with my research, OTC is one condition, but it can affect everyone differently in terms of severity. How are you affected?
I am affected. I am currently on a low protein diet. I'm going to back up a little. So OTC can either usually be diagnosed neonatally, like right after birth, or we can have what's called late onset, which is more like in your teenage years. So I am what is considered a late onset because I was diagnosed at age 12 after ending up in a coma after eating a roast beef sandwich, believe it or not.
Wow, okay.
Well, I was kind of protein avoidant growing up. I didn't know I was supposed to be on a low protein diet, but I just kind of avoided those foods. And I actually ended up in my coma at Johns Hopkins, even though I am from Rochester, New York, because I was on vacation in that area.
Okay.
So I was on vacation on Chincoteague Island off the coast of Virginia, was airlifted to Salisbury, Maryland. And because I'd been given aspirin because I had sinusitis when I traveled, they thought I had RISE, and they airlifted me again to Hopkins, where I was diagnosed by Dr. Saul Bruslow, who has recently passed, because he kind of discovered OTC, and he used to kind of patrol the pediatric intensive care unit looking for patients who are being misdiagnosed. I've been diagnosed, I'm 48 now, so I've been diagnosed more than 30 years. So a lot has changed. Because when I was originally diagnosed, we did not even have a FDA approved medication at all. I was actually part of the study to get what eventually became known as buphenol approved. Buphenol is still used, but the new, more current medication is called Ravicti, and it's an oil-based liquid, and you have to take way less of it. You go from taking like for someone my age and size, 30 some pills a day
Whoa, that's a lot.
I would now take 3 milliliters of Ravicti 3 times a day, which is not a lot. So it's much easier to travel with, it's much easier to manage, and it also controls my ammonia better.
So that's almost, is that almost like a shot of the oil 3 times a day?
Yeah.
Or
It's like a syringe. It's like a syringe full.
Oh, but it is something you ingest or you swallow?
It's swallow. It's oral.
Oh, okay. So that's
So like you pull it up in the syringe from the bottle, and then you just swallow it.
Oh,
It's tasteless, which is nice, and it has
Oh,
a little
really?
bit of a. You have to get used to the texture of it a little bit because it is oily, but it has no taste.
They should do that with cough medicine because that tastes terrible.
Yeah. So
Yeah, let's back up a little bit. So
okay.
So you ate the roast beef sandwich and then you went into a coma and then.
Yeah, I went and laid down because I did travel down to see. I was without my parents. I was with my paternal aunt. I traveled with her to see my other paternal aunt and uncle in Virginia, because my grandmother was supposed to fly with my aunt to Virginia and afraid to fly, so she backed out at the last minute, non-refundable ticket. So Amy got to go to Virginia. So I ended up down there without my parents, but I'd flown with sinusitis, and so I got up, I ate because I wasn't feeling well. I was up for maybe another hour or so, and I went and laid back down. And my aunt had been at the beach with some of the rest of the family. And she came back, and she was a retired nurse, and she checked on me, and I was comatose. So
how do you know that someone is comatose versus just sleeping?
you just can't rouse them at all, I believe. I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know, but you cannot rouse them. Like, they're not reacting to pain properly and things like that. So yeah, I have two. I was airlifted twice. I don't remember either flight at all, which is strange. It's a strange sensation to remember things like something like that happened to you and you don't remember.
That's something so awesome that you do and you can't even remember it.
Yeah, and I was also told that I wasn't really with it because I don't remember it, but I guess I was very combative on both flights because they need to strap you down so you don't move, and I did not want to be strapped down, and I was I guess throwing punches and everything. So and I was a tiny thing. I was 12 years old when I got diagnosed, and I was something like 56 pounds, I think, when I got diagnosed. I was tiny. I was on the very low end of the growth scale.
Was that regular weight for you, or were you losing weight?
That was my normal weight. Yeah, I was always tiny, and I mean, I was one of those kids that they tested for growth hormone and all that kind of stuff that they test for in kids that aren't gaining weight or growing properly. They tested for everything, but I mean, OTC is so rare; it's not something they tested for.
Yeah. So growing up, you never had any protein onto that day with the protein?
I mean, I had some, but I would eat a grilled cheese sandwich. I would take a bite out of each side. I wouldn't eat the rest of it. I'd eat the pickles and the chips that were with it and one bite out of each side. My mother used to say that every meal with me was a negotiation.
Oh, no wonder you were so skinny then.
So yeah, and the only thing to this day, it's still my favorite protein source. The only thing I would always make myself sick on is Red Lobster popcorn shrimp. Seafood is still my favorite protein source. If I have to choose, that is still my favorite protein source. So I would come home and within 2 hours of eating popcorn shrimp, I was tossing my cookies violently. And come to find out, my mother was tested and she doesn't have the gene. So I am what they call a de novo mutation. So I am the only one. I have no siblings. My mother had a miscarriage before she had me. So there's a possibility that sibling may have had it, but I mean, obviously we'll never know because that was back in the 70s. So
you're saying that if you never had protein, you might have never known about your disease?
That's possible. I mean, it's not something they test for. There's really no, I mean, I still go into emergency rooms now. And even with an emergency letter, doctors don't know what it is. They don't know. It's a battle. It's always a battle to try. That's why I do things like this podcast, is to try and spread awareness, because people don't know what it is. They've never heard of it. And you even get a lot of, I know moms who've lost children because they've had kids and they'd never heard of it. The doctors had never heard of it.
So let's talk about the coma part. Like, so obviously you can't remember it, but like, it's like why going into a coma is so bad for your body.
Well, because ammonia builds up around the brain, so it puts pressure on the brain. So the longer your ammonia is high, the more brain damage you can do. I mean, I can't prove this for a fact, but I don't drive. I have issues with depth perception, like when I've attempted to learn, but I drive like a little old lady because the car that's 2 miles down the road, I feel is right up on me. So I have like no judgment of like how far something is from me. So it makes me drive like I'm 90. I drive like
I mean, I rather you drive like that than get
so I just
over.
don't drive. But I think some of those issues may have been caused by my coma. I can't confirm that, but I actually got told by a doctor once, and I don't think it's quite this bad, but from what she understood, it was like 50-50 that OTC patients drive and 50% do and 50% don't. I don't think it's quite that bad anymore. And I've actually had a couple other patients say, I drive, maybe I shouldn't, kind of a thing.
Like, so you mentioned like a coma, like how fast are we talking in terms of reacting? Like, is it once you get into a coma, it's like instant damage start, or is it like you can wait like an hour or two? Do you know?
I don't know exactly, but it's the longer, like I was in the coma for probably less than 24 hours because they figured out what they thought it was so fast and they started me on medication like right away. By the time my mother got there, less than 24 hours after, I had just woken up and she walked in the room and they started me on medication either right before she got there or right after she got there. I don't remember. It was 1985. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So you're saying that you got into a coma and then they gave you medicine, but took you another 24 hours for you to like wake up again?
No. I think they either started it right before I came out of it or right after. But they were pumping in fluid, and like even when your ammonia is high normally, if your ammonia is a little bit high, like not enough to be like, let's say I get a cold and I think it's creeping up, you do what they call a 6-day diet, high calorie, lots of fluid. My mother's example is you drink until you feel like you're floating, until you feel like you're going to pee every like 60 minutes. Like you just flush it. You flush out the body as fast as you can. And that's not as good as the medication, but it helps. I haven't been hospitalized in more than 5 years now because of the change over to the Ravicti. And even before the Ravicti, as an adult, I was only getting hospitalized probably every 18 to 24 months. And then usually it wasn't even overnight. It was go in, get some medication, bring it back down, and then usually I could keep it down once I got it stabilized again.
So is your condition controllable in terms of like you say you have like you eat no protein? So it is
with the medication you have to eat protein. So because what happens is I'm not a doctor, so this is hard to explain. Yeah. But if you're taking the medication and you're not putting in the protein, the medication will go after the protein in your body. So, which means your muscle, and you don't want that. That makes you catabolic. That can actually make your ammonia go up. So you have to put protein in. So my protein goal as an adult. So your protein goal is based on how stable you are and your weight and your height and things like that. In my 40s, so I'm average weight. So my protein goal is like 40 grams. A lot of people don't know how much protein is in stuff. For example, one large egg has 6 to 8 grams of protein in it. So just like think about that when you're thinking about one medium carton of yogurt has like 6 grams of protein in it. Things that people eat every day that they don't think about, have a lot of protein in them. Even like, now it's not gotten harder, but as people are trying to make things quote unquote healthier, like all the frozen dinners and stuff that I buy to try and take for lunch and stuff. Now the whole thing is like the healthy choice, but they're all high protein. They're all adding protein to everything to try and make them healthier. But that makes it so I can't eat it. I can't eat something that has 24 grams of protein for lunch. That's more than half my protein goal for the day. So it's a balancing act a lot of the time.
Oh, so you're saying that you have to eat below 40 per day
Yeah.
to be okay.
And it's actually, for me, because I was on such a low protein diet, like as a kid, it took me a while as an adult to actually be able to make my goal. I was actually like aiming too low. So like I've had to learn like things to add in things like some nuts as a snack or like some hummus or something with a little bit of protein to try and make it so I reach that goal. And that takes a little bit of
so how much protein do you need a day then?
40 grams. 40 grams is my goal. But I was hitting like 30. And if you're hitting 30, but you're taking a medication like your body, like you're supposed to get 40, that's not good. So it's a balancing act.
And then if you eat more than 40, then you start not feeling well?
Or you have to take more medication, which is not on the regular is not a good idea. But like, let's say you're on vacation and you want to like have like a lot of seafood or something like that. I've done that. That kind of thing. I've done that. Like once in a while, like an extra partial dose is not a bad thing, but on the regular, that's a no. That's a no-no. But basically, my hardest thing as an adult is a lot of the places where you get your amino acids and stuff, which affect your immunity, is from things with protein. So I struggle because I work in a public environment. I work for a municipality where I deal with people every day. Mm-hmm. So I struggled for a while with being able to stay healthy. The Ravicti's also helped with that too, actually. Plus, I've actually gotten some recommendations from one of the specialists I saw for a study about vitamins to take to help with that. So that's gotten better, but like there's a learning curve to it, even as an adult. I mean, I'm still learning new things.
Were you ever one of those people that wear masks during the day to protect oneself?
Yeah, I mean, not on the regular because I don't deal with a ton of people. I'm not in a department where I'm dealing with residents every day. I'm in the engineering department, so I'm dealing with engineers. So there's a lot fewer people. Like during COVID, we had to wear masks at work. I was never totally off of work during COVID. There was a time when we did 1 week on, 1 week off, so I wasn't as exposed. But it's like you've got to, like I get my flu shot every year. I try and do things like that for my immunity. I have a grandson who I love dearly, who I get every other weekend, but he was sick with 103-degree fever last weekend, so he had to stay home. God. He had to stay home because I couldn't be near him. Because if I get that, that's not good. He's fine. He's fine. He's 3. Kids are more prone to get those kind of fevers, but I get him every other weekend, and he's a handful. But it's like my whole thing has been learning how to manage my disorder, not letting my disorder take over my life, but trying to manage my disorder so I can live my life the way I want to. Because I am an employee, I am a wife, I am a grandma, I am a friend. I have things like this that I want to be healthy enough to do, like this podcast that I want to be healthy enough to do. I have obligations with Remember the Girls that I want to be healthy enough to take care of. I want to be healthy enough to do the things I want to do. I have parents that are relatively healthy for their age, but I need to stay healthy for them. And my mother is my biggest supporter to this day. If I get sick enough that my husband doesn't know how to handle me being sick, he calls my mother to this day. And I think he's only had like one case where he's had to do that, but my husband and I have only been together like 5 years. So luckily I haven't been very sick during that time frame, but if he's really not sure, mom is the go-to, but mom is also my go-to, even if I'm not sure. So, I will say Facebook has been great because there are times where you run across issues a question that comes up a lot for not just me, but a lot of things. Like I'm trying to plan a vacation for next year. What do you need to travel? Where do you want to travel? Like a couple years ago, right after we got married, we went to Orlando in August. Not my ideal time to go to Orlando, but we had free use of a timeshare that my brother-in-law's in-laws own. So we had free use of it. So it's like, okay, this is when we can go.
Yeah.
And we don't need to worry about paying for that part of it. So this is when we're going. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to sit down and I need to figure out, how do I make this work? Heat sensitivity is a big thing for people with OTC. Luckily, we were going, for one thing, staying in a condo where you have a kitchen and a refrigerator and a microwave and everything is a big help. Because then you have more control over what you eat and more control over being able to have the drinks you want and the snacks you need and things like that.
So is your biggest concern really what you input into your body, or and the amount of people you're with, or both?
It's also heat. Heat is a big thing. We don't deal well with the really bad heat. We get hydrated. For some reason, I feel like we get dehydrated easier. Luckily, we were going to Universal Studios. So I bought a cooling towel. Universal also has these humongous mugs. And you know those Coke machines where you can do the freestyle, you can mix the flavors and stuff? They had those all.
I haven't been there in 15 years, so I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so they have these Coke machines where you can like mix all the flavors and stuff, and they have them all over the park. So, but the mug has a thing on the bottom that you could refill it every 10 minutes. And the mug is like this big. So it was like $15, but it was like, okay, well, the $15 is worth it if I can stay hydrated enough to enjoy myself for the whole day.
Okay, so you get dehydrated enough that you have to drink that whole thing?
Yeah, so especially in that kind of heat. And we tent camp, usually 2 weeks out of the summer. I'm in New York. I'm in Western New York, so it's not like camping in Florida, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we have days in the 90s in New York.
Yeah, I live in New York City, so.
You told me that. So it's like, but we figured out ways between, cooling towels and just making sure there's enough drinks and making sure we also usually camp in the same place. So we know where, the good restaurants are, and we know where there's like, it's always nice to usually also camp someplace where there's like a Walmart within 20 minutes if we need it, type of a thing.
Wait, do you saying that you have like an RV?
No, we can't. We tent camp actually.
Really?
Yep. It's probably we're probably in the we just bought a house, so the next probably major purchase is probably going to be it's probably going to be at least a pop-up, if not an RV. So because I'm 48, my husband's in his early 50s, so it's now, mind you, we do have the queen size air mattress, and then that has a foam mattress topper on top of it. Like, believe me, I'm not sleeping on the ground. That's not happening. Has never happened.
I'm just really fascinated by camping and RVing that I always wanted to do.
It's so much fun.
I mean, I did need like people to do it, but like it seems so much fun. I mean, I also can see the challenges of it, but I think it's like one of those things you'll never forget in your lifetime.
Yeah, and the New York State parks are fantastic. So we usually camp in a state park, so it's so much fun.
But wouldn't it be better for you to be more of a controlled environment, like with AC and heating, since you're affected by the temperature?
Well, yeah, but I've gotten used to it, and we're also usually like the places we go, we're also always, we don't usually have a site right on the water, but within walking distance of swimmable water or water we go rafting on. Like when we go to Alexandria Bay every year, we have two two-person rafts, that one for me and my husband, one for my brother-in-law and his wife, that we tie together. And we're sitting out in the St. Lawrence floating on these things. So we spend time doing that to try and stay cool during the absolute hottest part of the day. So it's just kind of like figuring out things like that to do.
That sounds so much fun.
It is a lot of fun.
But like, I'm curious of like, how do you measure like protein when you're like go to a restaurant, or do you just bring your own food and just eat your own food?
I just, that is one of the perks of having dealt with this for 30 plus years, is I've kind of figured out what a lot of things are at least approximately for protein wise. I'm not particularly adventurous about what I eat type of a thing.
But yeah, you don't want to feel like shit for the rest of the day.
No. So I kind of stick to things I know. I mean, like Caesar salads are always safe and you can get pretty much anywhere, that kind of thing. So
how much protein is like in a shrimp?
It depends. Again, it depends what size, because you can get shrimp that are like this big and you can get shrimp that are like this.
Let's do jumbo size. Jumbo size shrimp.
Jumbo size shrimp is like probably 4 or 5 grams of shrimp. So I can eat like 4 or 5 of them.
Wow.
So I can do maybe like if you skewer them and like do them on a barbecue, I can do like maybe like a skewer full.
But that's like the whole day right there.
Well, no, that's like half the day, because that's like 20 grams. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, and that's also usually why I'm not a big breakfast eater, to be honest. That's something I kind of fall down on, I will admit. So it's like I usually save. That's another thing, is you need to kind of figure out. I cannot fly by the seat of my pants usually as to what I'm going to eat. I kind of need to figure out, okay, what am I eating tomorrow? Because like if I know I'm having seafood for dinner, that means like, okay, I have a salad for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I have a salad with like no protein, like no chicken, no shrimp, no nothing for lunch. Maybe a little egg on it or something, but like pretty much a no protein lunch. And then for dinner, I can have all the seafood I want. Not all the seafood I want, but you know what I mean? That's where my protein load can go. So you just learn those kind of tricks. And the other thing is I am going to circle back a little bit. When we talk about things like traveling and camping and stuff,
mm-hmm.
The other thing that I am going to mention is, where do we go? Whether it's, I have a copy on my phone, in my email. So does my husband. There's a copy in my glove compartment. I also have an emergency letter. So if I do end up in a strange emergency room, because my ammonia is high, because I'm acting strange, they have my specialist phone number. They have explicit instructions on what they're supposed to do. And basically, if they're not comfortable with doing that, they're basically told to call my specialist in Rochester, and who to call and who to ask for and that kind of thing. Mind you, the biggest issues I've ever had with emergency rooms has not been traveling. It's been here in Rochester, the same hospital where my specialist did. That's a whole hot mess. It's like the emergency room. I'm sure you've heard this phrase, invisible illness.
Yeah.
I am the invisible illness person. I walk in, I'm not puking, I'm not bleeding, I'm not causing a ruckus in their waiting room. So I can sit over here and I can wait. Now, mind you, the longer I wait and go untreated, the higher my ammonia goes. That's the struggle. Sometimes people are like, okay, I understand why they can't, but sometimes it's like, you feel like going, I know why I'm here. I don't need the CT scan and the blood work. Okay, yes, maybe I need blood work to figure out where my ammonia is at, but I don't need all these other tests. I don't care if you leave me in the waiting room. Start the medication. I mean, I know legally they can't do that. I know that, but yeah. You know what I mean? The frustration is like, this is stupid. I don't even care if you take me in the back and put me in the corner, like somewhere. Because I don't need the full workup. I don't need a bed even. Just put me in one of the recliners and let's go.
But what I'm confused is that could you self-medicate yourself? Like, could you have backup for yourself instead of you going to the emergency room? But like, I'm just confused. Like, why would you have to go to the emergency room if
if your ammonia gets high enough? If my ammonia gets to, usually my rate that I usually, by the time I get to the emergency room and they're testing it, it's hard to explain. The easiest way to explain it is I act like I'm drunk. When I haven't been drinking, it's like my husband will have been with me and he knows what I've been doing. I used to live in Florida. This is a long time ago, or not for very long, but I remember this is when I was married the first time. I remember trying to call home to my mother, who I called like 2 or 3 times a week. I'd pick up the phone. I couldn't remember my mother's phone number.
Wow.
I put down the phone. I went, like, looked at my husband at the time and I'm like, we need to go to the hospital right now. I'm like, things are headed in the wrong direction. I can tell you right now, they're headed in the wrong direction. Let's go. And sometimes I can tell like things like that. And then there are times where there was one afternoon, my current husband came home and I think it was just a stomach bug. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes you can figure out what caused it. Sometimes you can't. This time I think I just got a stomach bug and I was throwing up everywhere. So I couldn't keep the medication down. I couldn't keep food down. And, I end up in the emergency room. Sometimes it's you ate too much protein. Sometimes you got the wrong bug.
Could you tell the difference between the ammonia too high or the stomach bug or?
Well, in that case, it's usually, I don't usually get too nauseous with, some patients do. I don't usually get too nauseous when my ammonia is going up. And this was like, it felt like it was coming from my toes. Let me put it that way. It was,
I have never felt that before.
But you know what I mean? It was like, okay, this is not normal. I don't know. And I can tell I have headaches. That's usually my first sign. My ammonia is going up because I get headaches. And now I have sinus issues. So like my sinus headaches are here in the front. But when I get like, it feels like it's the whole head. It feels like no matter what I do, it won't go away. I get really, really, really fatigued, which is kind of like, that's where I struggle sometimes is you get something viral that causes headaches and makes you not feel so hot.
Mm-hmm. And
there are times where you were kind of playing that game of, is it ammonia or is it not? And I will admit I've screwed up because sometimes because of the bad experiences I've had in the emergency room, I err on the side of not wanting to go to the emergency room because of the many bad experiences I've had. And then that's the wrong decision. I've made that mistake. As a kid, my mother wouldn't let me get away with that. So, but that's also the thing is, that's the hard part is there's such a learning curve because like I got thrown in at 12 and I'm now in my 40s. I've gone to school, I've gone to college, I've gotten married. I chose not to have children because of my disorder, because it is genetic. And that was a combo of not only not wanting to pass it on, but a pregnancy also puts stress on your body. And I was also afraid of what stress that would put on my body and my OTC. So that was like a double whammy. But it was like, I've run the spectrum here. The only unknown is I am on the older spectrum of patients. I know a couple that are older than me, but I can count them on like one hand.
But you're saying that you have a shorter life expectancy?
No, but we're running into things like, I don't know if OTC and like high ammonias lead to things like dementia down the line. I don't know if they have an effect on things like menopause down the line. There are all these things that because we are the older generation that are just kind of to everybody still unknown.
So is it kind of like a new
it was
diagnosis?
Well, it was discovered, Dr. Bruslow, who actually diagnosed me, discovered the defect in 73, so the year I was born. Okay. But when I got diagnosed in 85, I was 12 and I had no brain damage. He didn't think you could make it that long. He did not think you could make it to 12 years old with no brain damage, undiagnosed. And now I wouldn't say it's common. There are people getting diagnosed when they get pregnant. There are people getting diagnosed. There's a woman in Australia who died a few years ago because she was a bodybuilder and she started taking like all the protein powder and stuff.
Oh, no.
Yeah, think about that.
That's like, I think one thing has like 40 grams.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She ended up dying. But it's like, there's been a lot more discovered about late onset, and that late onset is more common than they thought it was. There's a lot of talk in our community about, and this goes back and forth, and I know everybody has different ways that they feel about this. We talk about this and Remember the Girls a lot, the term carriers. Mm-hmm. I'm a carrier. I have no problem with the term carrier. But because I have to watch my diet and take medication on the daily, I will admit I consider myself more of a patient than a carrier. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just my personal.
You're both though.
Yeah, I mean I am, but like if you ask me how I'm going to describe myself, like if I had to pick one, I would say patient. So that's a big just talk about, but like there are a lot of talk about carriers and carriers without symptoms, or with very, very, very mild symptoms, like so mild that they really, I mean, they like the kind of thing like their ammonia is checked periodically, but it's well controlled enough that they don't even take medication kind of thing. You know, it only maybe got figured out that they were a carrier because their kid got diagnosed. Kind of in their kids' cases, their kids is more severe. So I don't know if you've found this one or not, there's a website called UCD in Common, which is run by Horizon Therapeutics. Horizon makes Ravicti. Horizon has done a very good job about trying to give us, as UCD OTC patients, resources, everything from talked about carriers and what that means to be a carrier, how that goes, to low protein recipes and things like that. We also, as a patient, and this has been very helpful to me as an adult, because there are things you run into an adult, like I was looking at getting another job. I'm in the civil service system. I don't want to lose my retirement, so I want to go to another civil service job. What happens if I get a job, I get offered a job, but I have, I'll say for example, 60 days where I'm not going to have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do in that case? Is it possible to still get my medication? Is there a workaround? So every patient that is taking Ravicti has a patient advocate. And I think the way they're done is I think they're done regionally. So I think there's a person who handles like the Northeast and, you know, that kind of thing. I think that's how they're done. But that's been very helpful because like I called her and I was like, okay, well, what do we do in this situation? Like, is this going to be, and I ended up not taking the job for other reasons, but like, is this going to be a deal breaker? I mean, because if it's going to be a deal breaker, then I'm just not going to go for it. And it is what it is. She's like, no, she's like, we can work around that. She's like, there are things we can do. And, I think I called her when I was traveling to Florida to see if there were any other concerns she could think of, things like that. I know people who have like moved from state to state and had concerns about finding a new specialist that have reached out to their patient advocates. They do a very good job of finding every way possible way they can help you to cover your copays, do some sort of assistance in that way. I've just found them very, very good as company to work to interact with. They also occasionally do Zoom meetings for us as patients, which is nice because we don't like, I have friends in Florida who have OTC. I have friends in Texas who have OTC, but like we don't get to see each other. I mean, the closest person to me is probably 4.5 hours away in the Adirondacks area.
How rare is OTC? Like, how many people are there in the world? Do you know?
I think it's, last I looked, I think it's 1 in every 20 or 25,000 births. So it's, I think that number is going to change. I think it's just becoming that there are a lot of people out there that have been undiscovered, and hopefully that's why I do the work I do with Remember the Girls. Is I just hope that I'm hoping that putting information out there will help somebody either cope with the fact that they got diagnosed or help somebody figure out that that's what they've got or their kid has or something like that. It also, I will admit, it just doing stuff like this helps me in some ways for my mental health, because
I hope us talking will help spread information and maybe meet new people that maybe are looking out for OTC people, and you can connect. Yeah,
Facebook has been a great tool. I mean, I know somebody in England, I know somebody in Australia, so I know somebody in Canada. So I know people all over, so it's fantastic.
Let's try to find one and closer to you than 4 hours.
I know. Yeah, it's like you don't want to wish this on somebody, but you still in some ways wish there was somebody closer to talk to.
Well, I'm sure there's other people that are in your shoe that would want to talk to other people in the same boat.
I mean, that's the hard thing is I've been talking to my doctor, and it's like that's the one downside of like all of like the HIPAA laws and all that. It's like my doctor's like, yeah, if there weren't like all these HIPAA laws, I would just like put you guys in touch or give you these other people's information. But he's like, I can't, that kind of thing. So it's like, I am going to steal an idea that my friend Lindsay told me about. And she had business cards made up that like OTC patient, rare disease advocate, and like her name and her contact info. And she leaves them with her doctor. And then he can pass them out if he wants to. She's like, you're free to pass these out. She's like, that way people can reach out to me if they want to.
That's pretty smart.
So I think she read it in some chronic illness book, but it's a way to connect that doesn't put him in a situation that he, is uncomfortable with.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk. So you take the medicine, and like if you don't have protein, then the medicine starts attacking your body, your muscle.
Yep.
What does that mean? Attack yourself? Like you just start hurting.
It breaks it down. It breaks it down the same way it would break down the protein that you're eating. It causes what's called catabolism, and that breakdown causes ammonia, just the same way the breakdown of the protein you ingest would cause ammonia.
Yeah, so is your ammonia? I'm not scientist at all. So so my ammonia level is at 0 right now, or do I always have some of my body?
Everybody always has some. I think a normal is like, don't quote me on this. It's been a very long time since I've remembered what a normal was.
Yeah.
But I think it's like in the 30s. I think something like that. But everybody has one. It's usually very low. Like I know it's less than 50. I know that for a fact. That's why it's testable. That's why there is a test for it. You know what I mean?
It says the normal range is from 15 to 45.
Yeah, so everybody has one. So
for
and
you,
then that's where my goal is. But usually I'm not quite that good. I'm very good on the Ravicti. I'm like in the 50s. When I was on my other medication, I was considered a high normal because no matter what I did on my old medication, I was always in the 80s.
Wait, so hold on. So when you take the medicine, so is your range at 0 and you have to lift it to 40, or are you at 40?
No. You're talking grams of protein. I'm talking grams of protein. I have to ingest 40 grams of protein. So, but my goal is to be in that range, but usually it's not quite that low, and usually OTC patients can't get it quite in that range. They're just trying to be a lot closer than they're trying to be in that, but not like mine is like, I think mine was like 58 last time I did mine.
And then when you get to when your ammonia levels start getting too high and you go to the hospital, what do they give you to lower your ammonia levels? For
me, because of the kind of hospital I'm in, usually they start with what's called D10. It's basically just fluids and sugar and stuff like that, and they just flush it. There are some people with severe cases who there is an IV medication. I've never been on it, so I might get the name of this wrong, but I believe it's called Ammonul that they can give, but that's usually given for people only in severe cases. I've never been given that.
Yeah, so you're saying that your body has high ammonia level and it has the ability to lower it, but it can't. So like when you give the fluids, you're like helping the body remove it faster.
Yep, you're kind of just flushing it and helping the cycle along.
Yeah, you're just making the process go a lot faster, so you get get out of the coma, or at least out of being sick, so you're normal again. Yeah.
And the other thing is I don't know why, but it just having a high ammonia is, I don't know how else to describe it. It's exhausting. Like even if I don't get that high, even if I'm only in like the 120s, for like I would say like a solid 2 or 3 days after it comes back or starts to come back down, I am just like wiped out. I mean, part of that might just be the stress of going to the hospital. I don't know, but that's just been my experience. Well, as I said, luckily I haven't been to the hospital in like 5 years, so it's been.
Yeah, that's great because it seems like you know what your body is, and at least it's consistent enough that you can just go like, okay, I'm gonna have this plate of shrimp, and I'm gonna not feel well later, but like you know that going in instead of just stuffing your face. And you said before, like maybe you'll take an extra pill at the end because you don't want to feel like shit for the next 3 days. But
now the other thing is we as OTC patients are known for we have food cravings. Any UCD patient I wouldn't say all of them, but a good amount of us, we love pickles, we love olives, we love like high salty foods. French fries, things like that. Their potatoes are a big thing. It's just, I can go through a 3-pound thing of potato salad in like a week that I make. That's like one of my go-tos. That's my thing is I figured out things to keep around my house that I make that I know I tolerate well.
So you could literally just have like your.
I just want to say to people out there who are newly diagnosed, that doesn't come overnight. That comes with experience. That comes with some playing around with your diet, figuring out what works for you. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. It's just don't get discouraged. You will find what works for you.
Yeah, I will also add that you mentioned it before with the changing of the food industry of now that everything more protein.
Mhm.
It's also constantly changing. So I'm sure maybe it happened to you that you kept buying the same, I don't know, macaroni and cheese, and then all of a sudden they go new formula, and then like maybe you won't notice it, and it's like, why I'm not feeling well. It's like, and then you look at the box and you're like, oh no.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard. So you got to watch everything, especially. I will say, and I don't know if this is the case for everybody, and I don't eat a ton of it, but I don't eat tofu. Tofu is a no-no. I don't deal well with it. But otherwise, my body deals well with vegetable protein sometimes. I do eat meat, don't get me wrong, but my body deals well with like vegetable protein and like bean protein. Like I eat a lot of black beans, I eat hummus, I eat chickpeas, things like that. So it's just, spinach can be high in protein if you eat like a large salad, things like that. So it's like I've learned tricks like that too. It's like you would be surprised what has protein in it. And it's like I feel so bad. The one good thing about the fact that I did not get diagnosed until I was 12, I never went through that stage as an itty bitty kid. There are some kids I know whose entire protein goal for the day at like 1 or 2 years old is like 3 grams.
That's so hard.
Yeah, and it makes you have to go. I mean, at that age, you kind of have to go to like medical foods, medical low protein foods. And there are a couple companies out there that make. I never had to go that route. I mean, I will say, I've tried some of their products. Not really a fan. That's just my personal taste and opinion. But as I said, I've also went through the first 12 years of my life without eating any of that stuff. So it might have been different if I had been raised on that kind of thing. It's a learning curve, and it's a learning curve for everybody. It's a learning curve for the moms. And I will tell you, the moms I know, including my own, who she won't like me to tell everybody this, but she's 70, and that is to this day is the mama bear. She thinks my health isn't being taken care of, and there's an issue. And we struggled. Believe me, we struggled. Because you got to understand, in the teenage years, kids with OTC and stuff, the issue is not outside drugs and outside alcohol and things like that. It's not taking your medication. That was fun. So we butted heads a lot during high school, but we made it through. And
well, I guess you don't understand the seriousness of your disease, and if you get into a coma, that could basically affect you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and it's also, I don't think the mothers understand some of the stuff the kids are going through either, because like the medication I was on back in the day did cause body odor. So like I was riding a school bus in like 8th grade.
No.
Yes. So there were things I was going through that made me not want to take the medication. It's just like you've got to communicate. I know communication between a mom and a teen daughter is not always the easiest thing, but you got to communicate.
Oh my God.
And you also have to communicate with your doctors, because I have my doctor now, who was my doctor when I was probably right out of college. We butted heads so hard when I was a teenage, when I was in like my early 20s. Come to find out, because the medication I was on at the time was undergoing FDA approval. So the guidelines he had to go by were so strict that's the way And I was trying to tell him, I think this dose is too high. And he's like, no, it's exactly right. Because he was being told a certain thing, and then he had to do things a certain way. And I'm over here like, you're just not listening to me. So we're fine. We're great now. I actually speak to his genetics class every January or February. He teaches first year genetics. So he does
awesome.
he does a lecture. He does the first hour and he does like all the stuff on the board and explains it all. And that second hour, he brings in either me or me and my mom, and we talk to the class for like a good hour about it. And so it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to finish up with Remember the Girls charity, and to refresh people's memory, it provides awareness, advocacy, and support for X-linked genetic disorders. What is your role in that charity?
I am actually during COVID. I discovered them during COVID. I am the secretary, so I take meeting minutes. I'm also partially responsible for they do a monthly newsletter, so I help put that together. I have also done July. They do a disease of the month. That's the way they handle it. There are like, I don't remember the exact number. There are over 200 X-linked disorders. So they started doing a disease of the month, and they're starting with the diseases that they are 100% certain they have members with. So July was OTC. So I did a podcast for them, and I helped put together some educational stuff for them.
Wait, but that would take like 6 years for you to do all the diseases.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's the thing, is I don't think they have. I'm not even sure they have patients for a quarter of those, but you know what I mean? So it's, they're starting with what we got, and we'll go from there and see what we have. They're also doing a lot about, they've done everything from stuff on, I'm not part of it because that has not affected me. There is not totally separate, but semi-connected Facebook group for grief and loss. So like moms who've lost kids. And then there are things about, they've done webinars on family planning. They've done webinar. I talked on this one. They talked about webinars on dating with an X-linked disorder.
Okay.
How do you have those conversations? Now, personally, I told them this, I've always been one of these, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. I kind of lay everything out on the table, usually on the first or second date. If you can't deal, no harm, no foul, have a nice day. That's just my particular philosophy. I know other people who wait months.
When you're dating someone, you're attempting to kind of hopefully to start a family and such. And, you don't want to like someone and then be like, oh, I can't have kids. And it's like,
yeah. Okay. And my other thing is told everybody, I'm like, I will admit, Joey, I've been married 4 times.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I've been widowed once, divorced a couple times. So it's just, and I finally got a winner. So it's just, I'm like, it gets easier. I'm like, it gets easier as you get older, because the whole family planning portion just gets taken off the table. You don't need to worry about that portion. I mean, they still have to worry about your health, but they don't need to worry about you passing it on to kids, because you get old enough that having kids is
not an option.
No longer an issue or an option.
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. When you're younger, you're kind of like on a timer.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's like, I don't know. I personally don't want kids, and I'm pretty sure I would never say I want kids, even if I meet the right girl. And it would be a shame if she wants kids, and then let's say we're dating 5 years and she said, I want a family, and I say no. It's like, what do we do? Does she break up with me and want to go with someone that has kids, even though we love each other a lot and amazing chemistry? It's like, it's difficult, but like, you can't blame me if I say I don't want kids and I don't want it 5 years later.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm very upfront about it. I'm just like, there's no right or wrong answer to what you want or what I want. We just kind of need to make sure that, and I mean, obviously, there's a possibility that people's feelings about the issue will change. But at the time when we get started, I want to know how you feel. Yeah. So,
it's easier for us because we kind of have an actual reason why we don't want kids, because we don't want to put it to our kids and stuff. But there just might be people that are completely healthy and they just don't want kids, and then maybe in the future they will.
Right. Yeah, I still have friends who are like, why didn't you choose to have children? I'm like, because I need to work. I need to be healthy enough to work full time to have health insurance to take care of myself.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't physically have the energy to work all day and then come home and take care of a kid. I can't do
yeah,
it.
it's I mean, it's a selfish decision in the end, and depends how you look at it. It's either you're selfish, but it makes sense that you don't have time. You barely have time for yourself, and now you're gonna take care of another kid. It's a like to me, like I don't think I would be a good dad because I don't think I could be there for the child with my health issues, and that wouldn't be for the child. That wouldn't be fair to the child because I purposely wanted to have this kid, and he's not benefiting from having a full time dad because of my problems. It's one thing if you gave birth to a kid and then you have problems after that, but
Right.
you
That's
have
different.
problems going into it. Be selfish and not have the kids suffer anymore.
Right.
Just, I mean, I guess it must be harder for women because they always want to be a mom and such, and that's a lot. Like to a guy, it's much easier, but still, to me, I think the kids should always be in a better place than how you were raised.
Yeah, well, I got the best of both worlds because my current husband has a son, so I have a stepson who's 25, so I have a 3-year-old grandson that way.
Oh,
So I
that's
got the
awesome.
best of both worlds. I got to skip the having kids part and get the joy of a grandkid.
Yeah, so you only take care of them on the weekends, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Before I take the mic away from you, are there anything you want to say, promote, anything?
no, I am on Instagram, on Facebook, Amy Englert. Feel free to reach out. I'm more than willing to take questions, talk to anybody. I'm an open book. Joey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All her information will be in the description below. Thank you for coming here. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.